Chronometry calibrated. The gateway will open in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Analyzing data. Likelihood of parallel universes now at 18%. Continuing analysis of the many worlds hypothesis.
This is the final episode of the Many Worlds Hypothesis under the original series films. This podcast and her topics will shortly become the care of another franchise. To them and their posterity will we commit our future. They will continue the voyages we have begun and review all the undiscovered countries, boldly going where no man, where no one has podcasted before. Welcome, everyone. I'm Gay Fesh. Joining me, as always, is the lovely DemonMama.
Hello!
And Moss.
Hello.
And today, we are reviewing Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, the last of the original series Star Trek films.
Oh my god.
It's
I
over.
can't believe we're here. I want a 7 and an 8.
There is, in fact, a Star Trek 7 and a Star Trek 8. We will get there. but
that's different.
I know. But we're gonna, once we've done this one, we're gonna move over to season 2 of Andor, and then I think we might, because once that's all done, I think we're gonna get up into like October-ish area. So I was thinking maybe doing like some horror movies, like maybe do an Ari Aster season or something.
Oh, hell yeah. That'd be great. Okay, I'm so excited for, just to hype up what we got coming in the future. I'm telling you, Andor season 2, tell your friends, get them in here, because we're gonna have so much to talk about. I've been thinking about it nonstop.
But that's a lot of, like advertising for the future stuff. But why don't we talk about the present? And
yes.
Specifically, why don't we talk about the fall of the the fall of the Klingon Empire?
Yeah.
DemonMama, what were your first thoughts?
Oh, okay. So I really like this movie. I really enjoyed it. And I don't know. I thought it had the best characteristics of all of the movies of the Star Trek series so far that I've enjoyed. I really loved how much screen time was given to letting all of the characters pretty much do cool stuff, especially Sulu. He felt like he got to be such a badass in this movie and so enjoyable and like wise. And he made a great captain. And that totally makes sense. Let's see. I loved the Klingon characters. I thought it was super fun. I was doing the pointing at the TV and snapping my finger thing multiple times during this movie because I'm like, hey, Worf! Hey, Kittimer! Like, I recognize these things. Like, it was, but it was interesting. I loved it. I thought this movie was really fun. It was funny and energetic, and it had a lot of silliness, but not as like slapstick as 5 was. Great movie all around. I really enjoyed it.
All right. And Moss?
I also really enjoyed this movie. I feel like we're getting to a stage with these movies where like the movie itself feels like it's in a familiar style. Like, because I was thinking, this movie came out in 1991 and okay, like 90s movies, like Jurassic Park. And like, there's a bunch of different movies that I watched around that time from right around when I was born. And so this movie starts to feel like a modern film that is paced more the way that I expect it to be. I did feel like, this is like philosophically not a super complicated story. Like, it's just, I do think it's interesting, the sort of thing that it's touching on, which is like, the ending of a multi-generational war. And like, I guess the thing that I appreciated the most about it as far as those themes goes is doesn't Chancellor Gorkin say it outright? Like, our generation is going to have the most difficult time with this transition. So, and that's kind of what it's about, is like, even somebody who we think of as like part of a younger generation, like this young Vulcan, like she's pissed off about the situation, or at least like willing to be influenced to do these things, working against this peace agreement. So I did think it was kind of like, this is like an action movie. I agree that, this is a thing that we've said about the last couple Star Trek movies, is like they start to feel a little bit more actiony and I guess formulaic in that way. But I still found it quite enjoyable.
So this is my favorite Star Trek movie.
Okay.
This is, I think, the one that I have watched the most. I watched it all the time as a kid, absolutely loved it. And even as a kid, like not even really grasping all of the themes, like I had like a vague inkling of the political relevance of it to the fall of the Soviet Union. But like, as a kid, I wasn't, a history buff or anything, even though I did, spend a good few years living in post-Soviet Russia. But I don't know. I like it. I like from just like a filmmaking perspective, like the pacing of everything, the editing, like that whole sequence with the attack on Gorkon's ship and the assassination, that is like really well edited. The tension is building. You've got the overlapping dialogue. You've got all of these really great, like the cinematography on the bridge. Like they make real use of the bridge set in a way that I haven't seen in any of the other Star Trek movies, where like you just see the camera like whipping around, going to the relevant person on the bridge, and it just things keep moving. And the music is like, this guy was I even forget the name of the Cliff Idleman was the composer, and he was like basically fresh out of college, but he really nailed it. I mean, there's like a lot of obvious inspiration from like Gustav Holst. The whole like intro title score just sounds like Mars, the Bringer of War.
It was too long.
It was too long for you?
I was like, this opening of this movie is taking for fucking ever.
Nah,
I love it. I love it.
I love having the overture openings. I think it's good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just you get to just like vibe and settle in and get comfy. Like it was longer than most of the other intros with regard to all the stuff, but I appreciate that. I want to see the people who made the movie. We should have to sit through that. It should be a law. That every movie has to put the credits first.
There is a character in Dream Daddy that insists on sitting through the whole credits, and we do it sometimes, and it's kind of fun. You can be like, that's a funny sounding name. There was one time where the guy's name was Richard Pickler, and I couldn't get over Dick Pickler. I just couldn't fucking get over it. So it is worth doing. It can lead you with like a lifelong giggle.
I am one of those people, by the way, who will do that. Like I have recently been playing this game called Elden Ring Night Rain. Maybe you've heard of it, but I will sit through the credits like every time at the end and not skip them, just because I'm like, all right, I'm gonna vibe here and let these people bask in their moment of glory for what they
worked hard.
Yeah, exactly.
One of my best friends from childhood ended up getting a job at Blizzard working on World of Warcraft while I was, like at the height of my, playing the game. So like when the first expansion came out that he had worked on, I was like, I'm actually pulling up the credits just so I can see his name show up in there.
That's so cool.
Speaking of the credits in this movie, the end credits where you had the main cast signing off. I don't know. Did any of you stick around when for the Endgame end credits where you noticed that the original 6 Avengers do that? They got that from this movie.
That's so cool.
Yeah, the Russos were like, oh, we've got to do the Star Trek 6 thing for the end of Endgame. So the version of this movie that we watched is kind of like a tale in of itself. Now, there were certain elements of the story that Gene Roddenberry objected to. And so the theatrical cut out about 3 minutes of material from the director's cut. Even so, for a long time, the director's cut was the version that we had in home media in VHS and DVD. But in the 2009 Blu-ray release, they went back to the theatrical version. And so it's actually kind of difficult to find this version in modern media. I think there was a 2022 director's cut Blu-ray release, which I didn't find out until after we just watched the DVD. I have the 2003 or 2004 box set of the Star Trek movies. So I had that version on DVD, so we were all able to watch that. But yeah, I actually had to like go through and dig through some like room and storage and find the box sets to begin with and get it, that was a wild deal.
There's a way.
But yeah, so if you've seen this movie and you hear us talking about things like Rene Auberjonois being in the movie and you're like, what? I don't remember Odo being in the movie. Well, that's because you didn't see the right version of the movie. You saw the version that cut the more overtly militaristic aspects that Gene Roddenberry was protesting against. But yeah, Gene Roddenberry actually had a problem with the script in general because of the main theme being prejudice, and not just prejudice in an abstract, but our heroes are all prejudiced.
Yeah.
because Jean has this idea that in the future humanity has overcome all of its problems, and so all of the crises come from outside. But I would argue that that kind of mentality, where you're convinced that you can do no wrong and any problems must be coming from an outside agitator group, like there are unfortunate implications in there. So I think it was actually very important to have this movie address ways in which our heroes are flawed. And I would argue that a more idealized human future where we have learned to overcome our problems is not that we don't have those problems anymore, but that we know how to address them and recognize them and work to overcome them.
I definitely agree with you. I think this movie, it's to this movie's strength that it depicts the ability for people to come to severely problematic viewpoints as a result of their experiences, even in a world where people have come to, I guess, have it be a part of their culture to question their biases and whatnot. That like an ongoing war can create scars that are very difficult, even for really, really enlightened and aware people to overcome. And I like that. I also like that Bones is like the least racist person that we see in the movie. When it was like at the beginning, it's like the racism is so loud that even Bones is offended. That was wild.
He's only racist against Vulcans.
Yeah, that is his autistic racist special interest.
He's not actually racist against Vulcans. He's just racist in the way that he insults Spock. That's a unique type of guy.
He's racist against green blood, and Klingons have pink blood, so that's
they have Pepto-Bismol, yeah.
Got me like Ivan Ooze up in here with that pink blood.
The pink blood was, I loved it. It was great.
One of the writers, Denny Martin Flynn, he had actually originally written it as green blood. He was an outsider to Star Trek. He wasn't familiar at all with it, but he was just like, well, they're aliens. I want to give them something. But then he found out, oh, no, it can't be green because that's Vulcan blood. So but there's also an issue that the assassination sequence is so bloody that if it had just been red, it would have gotten an R rating.
Yeah,
that was a very, very graphic, bloody sequence. And by turning it from blood to Pepto-Bismol, it dropped down from an R to a PG.
Yeah.
It's quite visceral with all the like globules floating.
And like blowing holes in people in low grav. It was that was a brutal scene. They really sold home like this is like there is some severe unresolved emotion going on into this assassination attempt. There was so much in this. Okay, so like the racism, like at the beginning of the movie, it was so loud that it was like honestly a little shocking. They were so like there's literally is a scene, and I don't know, I've not seen the theatrical one, so you'll have to let me know which ones got cut. But like there's this one scene where it's like they smell weird. And did you see them eating the food? It was like these are only the top of the line models know how to even
talk. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just like, wow, bro.
I think that scene was actually cut for like a TV broadcast version, but I think that scene was in the original edit. The scenes that were cut for the theatrical release were the Colonel West scenes. So when he comes in with Operation Retrieve, we can clean their chronometers, and then the reveal at the end that the assassin was actually Colonel West in a Klingon mask. That part got cut. They still had the assassin, but he was just a Klingon. And there was also the sequence where Spock is talking to Scotty, and then Valeris slides down the pole and says that Azet Bohr is Chancellor, and he's like, oh, I bet that Klingon bitch killed her father. Yeah, that scene got cut as well. But it just in general, and also like this movie came out right after Gene Roddenberry died. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting how much he objected to the script itself, but like I still feel like it captured the spirit of what Star Trek is trying to address, even though to his taste, he's like, well, I don't know, it portrayed the humans too bad.
I agree, though, that that's better. Like, it was better to show that, like, this is a struggle. Like, it shouldn't be easy. Coming to an end of a multi-generational conflict shouldn't be easy. We shouldn't be happy in these moments. And we should be able to get the fuck over ourselves, and, like, move on. Now,
I will also say that as good a movie as this is talking about the problems of prejudice, it's very clearly written by two white men.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah.
Yeah, because I dug out the DVD. So like, I was like, you know what? I've got the special edition DVD. I'm going to watch all the special features. I'm going to watch it with director's commentary. And so I got to hear like direct from the two writers of the film, Nick Meyer and Denny Martin Flynn, their experiences with the film, particularly with the racist lines that they wrote for black actors.
Yes.
And so you'll notice the briefing sequence when you've got Brock Peters, by the way, who played Tom Robinson in To Kill a Mockingbird. Like, that was a very specific choice to get somebody who is so like ingrained in pop culture to deliver one of the most racist tirades in the film. And you can see it in his face that he is like choking through those lines. He is very disturbed by the things that he is saying. And like, they talk about it. They talk about how like he couldn't get through the entire speech in one take. That's why they had like so many angles and cut away to other people and stuff, because the things that he's saying, he understands for the story, the importance of getting that out, but it was so detestable to him as a person that it was difficult. And then you had Uhura, who you might notice doesn't have a lot of, you know, like she kind of expressed disgust at the way Klingons eat. And at the end, she said she felt like Valeris, but we don't really see much else there. And that's because the lines that were written for Uhura, Nichelle Nichols refused to say.
Oh.
Yeah. One of them was given to Chekhov, and that's Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Mm.
Yeah.
And the other, which just got cut entirely, was Would You Let Your Daughter Marry One? And I understand what they're going for, and like I can understand like in an abstract being like to really address that prejudice is like a human thing, and especially because the black people aren't the other, the Klingons are the other, having it come from a historically marginalized group.
Yeah, like even black people can be racist.
I get it from a storytelling perspective.
Yeah.
But this was something that I noticed that really stuck out to me on the director's commentary, in how white the response of the writers was, is that Denny Martin Flynn said that the line, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, he said Nichelle decided the dinner line was racist in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he never quite understood. And it's like, well,
how can you not understand that?
like, okay, so for people who have no idea how Guess Who's Coming to Dinner might be racist, there's a movie called Guess Who's Coming to Dinner that came out, I think, in like, was it the 60s or 70s, starring Sidney Poitier. And it was about a white woman who was bringing her black boyfriend to dinner with her racist parents. So, and in that movie, Sidney Poitier is playing like the most model minority possible. He's like, they wrote him to be so obscenely wholesome and upright that the only thing people could object to is his skin tone. And while I understand for the time, like what that film is trying to address, it's still playing on the racial politics thing that Nichelle Nichols was not comfortable doing. And I totally understand that.
Totally makes sense. Yeah.
And I should also say, and this isn't on the racism front, although maybe it is kind of just in terms of why they wouldn't speak Klingon. But the sequence where they're like, going through the English to Klingon dictionaries to like response to the listening post, Uhura, as communications officer on the flagship of the Federation, would absolutely speak Klingon.
If for no other reason than to detect like antagonistic frequencies and understand what it says. Like, doesn't she know like 18 languages? It really is like, it would have to be a deliberately racist thing for you to choose to do to not learn Klingon, and also makes you a less effective officer in your role on the ship. Yeah, like I guess like it is true that sometimes racists will deliberately make themselves worse at their job for the sake of not, like doctors, for example, like not treating black people's pain the same way. Like they'll make themselves worse at their job in order to not confront this bias, I guess. But I did think that scene was ridiculous, like an insult to the character.
It is funny. Like it was played, it gets laughs, but
it's played for laughs. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the Uhura got done dirty. Uhura. Hey, let's go back to the credits. Uhura got done dirty in the credits. They misspelled her name. They spelled it Uhuru.
Wow.
again,
Yeah.
this is my favorite Star Trek movie. I am like, but I have to point out these criticisms of this thing that I love. And I have to take off my white blinders and like look at the ways that this movie about prejudice was written from a privileged perspective.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I again, like you mentioned, I understand the like story structure, and I do think there would be value in having like, because the whole point is to show that like, even if you come from an ancestry that was once persecuted, that it is very possible for you as an individual to participate in some kind of other prejudice, and it's possible for blind spots to exist. Even people who have experienced prejudice themselves can then replicate that prejudice if they're not, able to internally reflect. And I think that that's valuable to have in the movie. But I do think that it is an odd decision to have like some of the most racist things in the entire movie said specifically by Black people. Like I just, again, it feels like, especially when there's just like so much of the cast is white, like it's just like, I don't think that that's like the smartest move. And I think that it starts to get in the way of what the movie's trying to communicate. Or perhaps it just serves as this movie is demonstrating something that it's attempting to critique. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, like minus that issue, I do think the movie does a good job of like forcing the audience to have to grapple with the ugliness of prejudice and the way in which prejudice can jeopardize not just and hurt not just those people who are directly involved, but everyone. That prejudice can lead to people in positions of great import making decisions that are totally wrong or that are extremely, extremely dangerous. And I don't know, I like that's the movie is very devoted to that all the way through. It shows it in multiple lights. It shows it in different settings. Sometimes there's the extremely overt prejudices of like, the people being like, these people stink or whatever. And then there's like the warlike prejudices. Then there's like the small biases that are in like, oh, we can't even recognize like culture that are different. You know what I mean? Like when they're at dinner is a great example where it's like, it's much lower stakes, but it's like, they're all like, oh, the Klingons eat weird. And then they're like, not
the Klingons don't
attention.
even understand. Like the Klingons all seem confused. Like some of them look like they're dropping the napkins just because like they're just saying, oh, I guess that's what you do here. But like some of them, it appears, I don't even know what this is.
Yeah, they're like, I don't know what this is. What the hell is this for? And it's like all the Enterprise crew are just like, oh yeah, that's so weird. They're so weird. And it's like, okay, well, you're doing all kinds of weird shit too. Like you have your forks and spoons set out in this specific ritualistic fashion, and it's just like, goddamn, I don't know. I like that they explore that in such a blunt way, especially because it isn't usually that blunt in most of Star Trek. Yeah, like, I mean, you get sometimes where it's like very explicit, but this movie is like, let's hit all of it. Let's hit all of the angles of prejudice that we can bring up and explore it fully. Even down to like stuff like when they go to the prison, there's like a kind of a joke about an alien whose like genitals are on his kneecaps.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this like, okay, it's down to like stuff like that where it's just like, oh, hey, like you need to be able to get beyond your presumptions in order to navigate all kinds of situations, like down to something as silly as that. I do appreciate this movie having such a focus on its theme and talking about it in so many different lights. And that is something that I feel like I think I like in the Star Trek movies so far. The movies that have stronger central subjects that they're interested in exploring in full, I think I prefer all of the movies that have that. I don't think it's like necessary for every movie to have like a single or a handful of subjects that it's like, I'm going to talk about this in every angle that I can. But I do think the Star Trek movies, it suits the format well. It's thoughtful and I like it.
I really like Spock in this movie.
Yeah.
Just a hard left turn. Like, I feel like something that I've complained about before has been that his characterization kind of gets reset every once in a while. Like, oh, his whole arc is like coming to terms with his emotionality or whatever. In this movie, we have, from the start is like absolutely no question as to whether he's going to sacrifice his honor and disobey orders in order to protect Kirk. Like, there's just no more illusions about like, or hemming and hawing or anything about like, should I do this or should I not? So like Kirk has shown this dedication to him in the past of like, we're going to go get him no matter what. And he's returning the favor. And he consistently in this is like, okay, lying isn't entirely a bad thing, or stretching the truth isn't entirely a bad thing.
A lie, an error.
Yeah, exactly. And dude, like the way he slapped that phaser out of her hand,
I was
like,
so
dude,
fucking pissed.
Pissed. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
There's a lot of moments where you can see the anger bubbling up with Spock, or the frustration. Like,
yeah.
After the dinner scene where everybody else is like decompressing after like, boy, that was a disaster. And the camera just kind of lingers on Spock as he just looks around, and like you can just see the frustration in his face. Like, I am just surrounded by a bunch of fucking racists.
He's kind of passive aggressive. He says something like, yeah, some of us had conduct that maybe was not ideal.
Yeah.
He's so mad.
When we are inviting people over to have like a diplomatic dinner, maybe don't compare them to Hitler.
Oh my God, that was wild.
I like that she straight up said the word racist in this movie. You know, it's not very often that people say the word racist in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Human rights are racist. Like, kind of.
True. They were right. The Klingons were right in that scene. They were calling it out for real. It's like, oh yeah, human rights. Okay, I see you're very like you've
the
come to space
only club.
Yeah, it's human supremacist. It's racist in that way. Yeah,
it's great. It's great. I like that. Okay, so there was from that something that you mentioned the reference to like Adolf Hitler, 1930 or whatever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much of the like Shakespeare and literature quoting in here. I'm like, oh man,
so many references.
Oh man, Picard would have loved this being in this movie. Like, oh my God, let him in on this plot. Let him hear in, because I don't know.
That's funny because the writer actually because he wasn't familiar with Star Trek and he didn't realize that the Next Generation was set like 100 years in the future. He had originally written a scene where the where at the end they like hand off the keys to the Enterprise to Picard and crew, but that wouldn't have made sense. So
that wouldn't have made much sense. It's still like I don't know. Maybe there's just there's. Let me get this straight. TNG started in 1987, right? So there had been a couple seasons of TNG when this came out.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Yeah. So I don't know, like, I'm obviously, like, it seems like the Star Trek, the entire world of Star Trek, they're all very interconnected in some way or another. And it's interesting to see, like, aspects from TNG that have made their way into here. Like, again, I just think, like, the TNG is so full of entire episodes that are references to literature. Like they literally like go and travel into Shakespearean plays in the holodecks and stuff like that, and Sherlock Holmes, all the great Sherlock Holmes episodes.
There was a Sherlock Holmes quote in this movie.
Yeah, there was, and he implies that his ancestor was Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yes, that is in fact the that is the standing fan theory that Amanda Grayson is a descendant of Arthur Conan Doyle.
There's also the like part where it's like, oh, just wait till you've heard it in the original Klingon about the Shakespeare play, which is so good.
And afterwards, they did release Hamlet translated into Klingon, actually, which is very funny because tak pa tak be, which is understood to be or not to be. Mark Okrand, who developed the Klingon language, was actually very annoyed that they asked him to give them to be or not to be in Klingon, because he's like, guys, I literally wrote this language to not have the verb to be.
No!
Oh, they did copula deletion for Klingon. Okay.
So I think tak pa tak be actually literally translates is to continue or not to continue, which carries the spirit of it very well. It's just, it's how the Klingons would have had to translate it anyway, because they don't have that verb.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Maybe that's what makes it so poignant, is because it's expressing something that is so hard to express otherwise. It's art in that way, pushing a boundary of a language.
Yeah.
I also found out there was even a Shakespeare line given by Martia, the shapeshifter, when she said, "I thought I would assume a pleasing shape." That is from Hamlet, where it says, "The devil hath the power to assume a pleasing shape." So there it is.
Oh.
Wow.
I had a whole note just about Marcia.
Yeah.
I love her so much.
Uh-huh.
It makes me so mad that she just dies and gets obliterated in a zap, and that makes me sad because I love her character. I wish she could have been a bigger part of the movie because the portray, like the actress's portrayal is phenomenal.
Iman is great in this. Yeah,
Iman and goddamn, and just I don't know. I love her character so much. I love all of it. I love even the like weird kind of like out of place seduction scene, and then like Bones is just sitting there like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like you've made me feel like I feel like we have less
anyway.
What are you doing? It's so good. It's all of it is so good. And then like her just like shifting between like this giant Yeti monster and like the like the kid form. It's so cool and fun. And I'm like, oh, I love it. Goddamn. I wish that she got more.
One of my favorite bits with her is right after she explained that Kirk kicked that guy in the junk. And he goes, anything you want to tell me? And she's like chomping a cigar and she just gives him the biggest grin. I'm like, that is how you flirt. That is how you flirt.
It was very solid.
The cigar, like I love the shot where she's like, oh, here, smoke this. It'll keep you warm. And then Kirk takes a puff and he's just like clearly high as fuck. Like, it's like, this is not a cigar. This is a fucking blunt, bro. This is alien weed. It was great. I love it. I like the whole section on the alien prison is great. I wish that she didn't just get zapped. It made me so sad. I do like Kirk versus Kirk. That was extremely funny, and obviously fun. Like,
can't believe I kissed you. Must have been your lifelong ambition, which like is incredibly meta.
Got him. But also it's like got him, but like then you go, wait a minute, like she's only really known him for like 2 seconds. So like
that, like I said, that's a meta joke. It's not a joke about Kirk. It's a joke about Will Shatner. Like,
yeah. Oh my god, it's so good.
The performance of it was pretty stellar. I will also say, like his performance of her lines was good.
It is odd that her voice stays the same through all of her morphs, except when she turns into Kirk. Mm-hmm. But that would make it easier for them to determine who's who when they show up. If there's a Kirk with Martia's voice, it's like, okay, well, I know which one is not Kirk.
Yeah, you have to do the not him, no, it's me, or whatever scene. Yeah, you have to do that. Yeah.
I do love. Oh, that's another thing that ties into this. All of the costume design in this movie is fantastic, and it is so different than the costume design in the previous movies, which like I remember really liking the costume work in Search for Spock. It was probably one of my favorite parts of that entire movie is like all the Vulcan outfits are amazing. And in this movie, it's like they're also fantastic, but they're in such a weird different way. Like, I mean, you have Martia's like the thing that made me think of it was like Martia's like bird suit. Like she has all the like feathers and the yellow contacts and
feather eyebrows.
Yeah, it's so good. I love it. It's like there's so much detail and it looks amazing and strange for Star Trek. But then you also have the like president of the Federation of Planets with his little swagged out miniature eyeglasses, which are like, oh my god, I love those. He's just like, oh yes,
little Morpheus glasses.
Yeah, but they're so tiny and they look so good. Like, I love it. All the decisions are so good. You have that like Romulan guy with the like teal jacket or something. I'm like, oh man.
I also noticed that the pattern on the Romulan ambassador's shirt is square based, which like if you look at the Romulan outfits on TNG, they're like they kind of look like square packing foam, like with the bubbles and everything like that. And it was like, okay, so they're keeping the whole square pattern design aesthetic there.
Plus they have like the super squared off shoulders, which like kind of give them the Roblox look.
Gorkon is swagged out. I fucking love his cane.
The giant tooth, so amazing.
Yeah. Also, he's like, they basically designed him as a cross between Gorbachev and Abraham Lincoln. Like those were specifically their design intentions for the character. Even the name Gorkon, because again, this was like a very literal one-to-one analogy with U.S.-Soviet relations, around, late 80s, early 90s. I mean, Praxis is literally Chernobyl in space.
Okay, so there was one thing I wanted to talk about that I felt was like a very odd moment in this movie, which I guess first I'll start by talking about the fact that about 20 minutes into the movie, maybe a little more, I was Valeris. Valeris, I was like, Romulan? Because like there was so much that I was just like, oh, this is like a Romulan character, like because like they're giving her so many moments where she's like very emotive and bubbly, and like I love the fact they have her come down on the little pole, like the little like fireman pole. Great, that like needs. I feel like that's such a great touch. It's so silly but it's so like small. But I was like, oh, they're like giving her a lot of like emotion and she's clearly doing some like subterfuge with like the Romulans have a big culture, like a government culture of subterfuge, but they didn't do that, which the Romulans were involved and they didn't do it. But I was kind of surprised. And then also this is the core thing I want to talk about was the mind rape.
Yeah. It was a little bit non-consensual.
It was big time. And
that's also a thing that I have to criticize the filmmakers for, because again, I listened to the DVD commentary, and do you know how they described that scene?
Oh no.
Very sexy.
Do I want to? Oh no.
Yeah, I was just like, what the fuck is that, bro? Like it's very clearly non-consensual. It's like kind of like one of the most immoral things Spock has ever done in Star Trek. I understand why he did it, but like let's maybe not describe it as sexy.
Yeah, the stakes there are like understandable, but it is like on so many levels through so many of these movies we've seen the mind meld as being a very intimate act, spiritually intimate act. I mean, everything from the first movie and onward, there's all these different moments where it's like, this is so deeply spiritual. And so like, on one hand, it's like, okay, that was part of the thing that made me go, oh, is this the Romulan thing? Because I know the Romulans use the mind meld for interrogation
I actually don't know that we've ever seen a Romulan use a mind meld.
I thought they did in, oh no, what's the episode that I'm thinking of? I'm thinking it's in TNG, and I'm remembering a scene. I wish I could remember the episode off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure there's a TNG episode where they capture someone and they've got them down in this dimly lit like cave room thing, and they use the mind meld to like, or something similar to it, to like probe someone's mind to get information out. I think it's from TNG. I'm going to have to go look this up afterwards. I was pretty sure there was an episode where Romulans use something akin to the mind meld to try and steal information from someone's mind.
I've seen every episode, and that's not ringing any bells, but that doesn't mean that you're wrong. It's just
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, we'll look it up. But talking about Valeris and your instincts. Oh, is she a Romulan? Well, so originally their original intention was they wanted to get Kirstie Alley back to play Saavik.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if they approached Rob and Curtis after that, or if they just didn't want, like, if they couldn't get back Kirstie Alley, if they just didn't want to do that and decided to go with a new character. But I think that would have definitely had more of an impact, having somebody who's been in multiple Star Trek movies.
The betrayal would be so much more. Yeah.
Right. It would be like honestly, the only way that the betrayal could be more like immediate is if it was one of the original crew cast, but I think fans would hate that too much. I think the stakes for a character introduced in the films is a little less than somebody who's like, how could you have Chekhov be the one who betrayed everyone? I mean, to be honest, that would be like the first time he got to actually do something in these movies. But I mean, I still think that the betrayal lands somewhat, given how much Spock has been talking her up and how much respect he obviously has for her.
And he always takes a personal interest. If there's a Vulcan on board and he's like, I want to be a mentor to this person, he wants her to take his place on the Enterprise. Like he's invested in that. And like, I think that that's something that's interesting that this movie explores, is not just negative prejudice, but positive prejudice, where he's like,
Spock
I was prejudiced toward her. Yeah. Like I was so prejudiced in her favor and like I wanted her on board so much that I failed to notice what to me looked like really obvious signs. Like, this movie, it didn't really try to have the twist ending be a surprise. I feel like if you're paying attention, you can see the constant cinematography, like references to her being a bad guy.
there's the thing at the beginning where she's like very clearly trying to tell Spock, hey, look, do you not recognize what's going on here? And he's just like, oh, you just have to have faith that everything will play out as it should. And then this one, it really plays better on repeat viewings. But when Kirk is doing his I've never trusted Klingons and I never will captain's log, the camera pans across him as he's narrating, and it just very briefly goes across the door to his quarters that are open. You don't see anyone, like you see somebody just walking past, but you don't see Valeris there. I assume she's hiding behind the corner. But then she shows up at the end to be like to clear her throat. But once you find out, well, the Klingons have that log recording and use it in his trial, it's very obvious. Okay, so she was just hiding right behind that door, recording the whole thing so that she could give it to them. Yeah, like she's pretty well set up. There's also, she seems so pleased once they found the gravity boot, because they blame it on crewman Dax until she finds out that crewman Dax absolutely could not have worn those boots. And you see
because of his feet.
There's also the scene with the two assassins where they're just speaking racistly about the Klingons, and then she just walks up to them and is like, you men have work, then snap to it. And at first glance, it's just, they're being told off by an officer who caught them being racist. But on repeat viewings, she's actually telling them, get ready to kill these motherfuckers. So it's well played.
There were also two times that stood out to me where someone was saying something in a separate scene that was like, who could be doing this, or something about trust. And then in the next scene starts and it's focused on her, and maybe it pulls away from her at some point, but like just clear cinematic language that she is somebody to pay attention to in this lack of trust sabotage. Like, she's the one who convinces Uhura to, which, like, again, Uhura is easily convinced to do this lying basically about like the communications.
It's in their mutual interest.
It is. Yeah.
I mean, Spock is the one who's just like, we'll in 24 hours, we'll pretend this conversation never happened. So, she's taking Spock's lead on a lot of this stuff, too, on the subterfuge and the obfuscation. Like, literally, there's a couple times in the movie where she goes, a lie, and he responds with an error or an omission. And then at the end, when he's like, who are your co-conspirators? And she's like, I do not remember. A lie? A choice.
A choice, yeah. Kind of a great response, even if she's doing it for the wrong reasons. Like, kind of being like, well, you're sticking to your principles. At least you can respect that.
Yeah.
Another thing, just as a small note that's not really directly tied to any of this, but I do think that part of what makes this movie, in my opinion, so good and flow so well is like the fact that all of the espionage portions it's all communicated in this really well-paced. My friend who was watching it with us said it's a Columbo episode, where I'm like, it kind of is a Star Trek Columbo, but it reminds me of some of those TNG episodes where they're doing the mystery solving, and they're just one-off episodes for the most part that are like taking place in the holodeck, and yet they're so good. There's like, the mystery structure works so well for these movies. And I think it's like, its pacing it makes the movie very compelling on that front, gives you something to keep going while you're exploring all this other stuff. And I think it works really well for this movie. I just wanted to say that because it was something I was thinking about the structuring of this movie and what makes it flow, in my opinion, so well and stay so engaging all the way through. I was just looking up while y'all were just talking about that. I was just looking up a little bit about the like history of the mind meld in the Star Trek universe, and they really undersold how bad that was on a moral level as far as what's been established in their universe.
Again, there's STDs that you can get from mind meld, so it's definitely a sexual allegory.
Yeah, and also like the Vulcan culture around it, even stuff that I didn't know prior to watching this movie, like, it's just like, oh yeah, you don't ever do that. Like, there was a thing on the wiki that I was just looking up that said that it's established in one of the episodes that TOS episodes, I think, that people who learn how to mind meld interrogate are like on Vulcan are forced to take like a vow that they would rather die before ever having to do that. So it has to be like that level of stakes, which I don't think that's like, I don't think the stakes were that far off from that in here, but we don't really see Spock grapple with it at all. And they just kind of move on from it. like all of the people on the bridge are like clearly upset by it. It's extremely upsetting. Like
Spock is upset by it.
yeah,
Like you see him when he releases, like it's the most emotional you've heard his voice in a very long time when he says she does not know, and it's clear he is upset by what he has done. He's not just upset because she doesn't know.
Yeah.
I think he lost control.
I feel like they should have given that more time to breathe.
Yeah,
I really do think it would have benefited the film and the messaging around that subject to give it a little more time to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Because it stood out as me going, wow, that is a huge thing to just throw on the screen like that. And yeah.
Like, I feel like there were personal stakes for him around that could have been delved into. Like, yes, like, so there's really high stakes situation with like galactic war on the horizon.
Yeah.
And like, that's what we're trying to prevent here is like, World War III times a million.
But this is like his student and successor. And it's just...
He had to sacrifice something of himself in order to prevent this thing happening. Like to have crossed that line, to have done something that is considered so wildly unacceptable.
He had to become he had to engage in a truly evil act.
Yeah.
In order to... And yeah, I'm glad that they do give enough time that we see the reaction of the crew and we see Spock's reaction. But I do feel the film could have really benefited from exploring that a little more and grappling with that a little more as a part of the actual film. Yeah, it was a lot. I sat there going, that was a place to put this with how much it feels almost like out of character for Star Trek to have something so dark. Yeah, I don't know. I think about how much time was spent setting up this character. I was like, this is your scion. This is like somebody that you've like chosen and taken under your wing for years and like helped them get through. And then it's like, it ends like this. That's messed up.
She's like, I could not replace you, only succeed you, sir. And I was like, she's cool. And that's good writing. And then, it ended here. Christian Slater.
Yeah. Christian Slater just shows up for one scene to wake up Sulu. And, at that point, he's like already, like a known quantity. He did Heathers. I think Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves came out that same summer. So you might be asking, what is Christian Slater doing in just like a tiny like throwaway role? And it's one, he's a huge Star Trek fan, and two, the casting director for the film was Mary Jo Slater, his mom.
Okay.
So his mom got him a walk on.
That's great.
That's fun. Also, Michael Dorn.
Yeah, Michael Dorn shows up as Grandpa Worf. I don't think it's ever is specifically established in canon his exact relation to the Worf we all know and love, but it seems very obvious that he's like a grandpa or great grandpa, and he probably ends up settling on Kittimer after that whole. Yeah,
I was gonna say, like, I was trying to piece that together because I don't have as good of a grasp, like off the cuff grasp of the timeline of these things. I'm like, wait a minute, this is Kittimer. Like, that's Worf. Like, that's Michael Dorn playing Worf. I'm like, what's going on here? And I was just like, that's cool, but I don't really get, like, if it's just I didn't know what they were trying to do. If it was just a reference, because obviously the show's running, so people know who Worf is and they know who Michael Dorn is. Like, I don't know, but that makes sense if it's like supposed to be his grandfather who he's named after. So yeah, I guess that makes sense.
And it's mostly just like a let's cross promote our properties, let's bring in somebody from the TV show to
good call,
show up in the movie.
Honestly.
And it's like, it's not, he's not an important character, right? He's just the court appointed advocate. Yeah. And so that could be anybody. They're like, well, this could be anybody. Do we have an opportunity for a cameo here? Let's take advantage of it.
Do a little tie-in.
He's trying his best. Okay. As a lawyer, he puts up such a fight against the dark, evil wizard god that's sitting in the judge's seat. And it's just like, none of his things are being taken.
Accurate
He's like, objection.
World.
Judge's swag is insane. The gavel,
it is insane.
The claw gauntlet with the thing, like, and that was just like a sculpted piece. It wasn't like his hand was there. It was like that was a gavel just shaped like a claw holding a thing. But it looks great.
So cool.
But also, like, we have gone an hour and we haven't even mentioned Christopher Plummer as Chang.
That's true. We haven't.
That's true.
that dude is chewing the scenery on everything. It like
It's true.
half of his lines were just written by William Shakespeare.
I know.
Like he's any opportunity he has to say something, if William Shakespeare said it first, he's going to be like, well, who am I to argue with the master?
Shakespeare,
Yeah. And if he's not quoting Shakespeare, he's quoting Adlai Stevenson. The don't wait for the translation, answer me now was from the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Oh, wow.
So,
Oh my God.
yeah, like they were really going for it. No, he's great. He's not a complicated villain, but he's, having fun with it. And sometimes you just want somebody who's there to have fun with it. It's a complicated enough plot. He's just one of the players in the conspiracy. He doesn't have to be any more than the mustache twirling villain who quotes Shakespeare and spins around in his chair.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he represents the chair spin was fantastic. We all were like, oh yeah. But he kind of represents the person who can't move on from the war, like Holland, who's just like, nah, this is my life. This is all that I've known. This is all that I will ever know. I respect my opponent in like the way that like I would want to fight as hard as my opponent does, but I can't. There's nothing else for me. I am the warrior, and that's all that I am. I also love that they just are like, look, it would be we can't have him having like an eye patch like strap. We got to just nail it onto his face.
Riveted to his skull.
It's riveted to his skull. That's so sick.
So cool.
Great character choice. Like that just informs so much about him, that this is a guy whose dedication to his Klingonness is so much that he will just be like, yeah, it's bolted to my skull.
Yeah. I don't ever
No,
need
I
to take
didn't
it
use
off.
painkiller. Why do I look like a patach? No.
I love the idea that it has like those snaps, like with those really hardcore leather. Like they do pull apart, but it's like, like it really pulls apart. So he's like, yeah, I got to clean under this thing.
I was sitting there thinking about it in the movie. I'm like, I guess you could do that with like magnets. You could have like magnets implanted or metal implanted under the skin or on the bone. And I was just like, damn, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, that's actually pretty sick. If I ever lose my eye, I'm gonna opt for that.
You're not going to do a sapphire? Man.
In reality, it was probably just spirit gum, which
yeah, of course.
As somebody who's done a lot of stage, I fucking hate spirit gum. Like,
that is the worst.
It's the worst.
I think the only thing I have left is that I really wanted Spock to say, I find that remark racist at the end of the movie. When Kirk says everyone's human, he's trying to rationalize like, oh, I can still say human rights because what I'm really doing is conferring the trait of humanness to other humanoid aliens. But then Spock is just like, I find that remark insulting. And I really wanted him to say racist, but he didn't. So
I wanted to yell, Spock, you are human. You literally are human.
He's literally half human. I don't understand you, sir. It's like, that's like Vulcan supremacy. He's racist by denying his human side all the time.
Look, he got it from his upbringing. Vulcans themselves were racist toward him for being half human. So
it's true.
In order to adapt, he fully embraced his Vulcan heritage and eschewed his humanness. Mm-hmm. So he doesn't think of himself as human. He thinks of himself as Vulcan.
Internalized racism.
It does serve to remind him every once in a while, dude, you're human too.
Yep.
Not red-blooded human, but close enough.
Close enough. Yep.
All right. Well, that's it for this season of the Many Worlds Hypothesis. Next up, we will be doing season 2 of Star Wars Andor, and for extra credit after that, we'll probably do Rogue One as well, because makes sense. So until then, I've been Gayfesh.
I'm Moss.
And I'm DemonMama.
And we will see you next time in a galaxy far, far away. Goodbye.
Bye.